Hi everyone. I know normally you're supposed to wait a few days before adding another video up to YouTube. But today this one is, I think, very important, and it's why I'm making it. It's a video about perception and preparation. And it comes out of a really good video that Matt did yesterday. And there was a metaphor that he used in that video about the vibrational frequency of this realm dropping. And it was an important see for me of like, it was like a piece of the puzzle I was missing. And from that piece of the puzzle, last night when thinking about it, I've added a second metaphor, which I'm going to call the bird in the tree perception. And I wanted to share it with you now because I think he's brought something that's so important, and I'm not sure if everyone actually caught how important it actually is for understanding what's going on right now. So I'm hoping he's brought you the dessert, and now I'm just going to add a scoop of ice cream or some berries on top of it to try to maybe take that metaphor in a little deeper and another way of seeing. So I'm going to start with the metaphor he provided, because way back, even 2 months ago, I had a video where I was talking about the spiritual warfare we're in and the black magic spell, which is the best way to describe it, that I had discussed being put upon the earth. And I more put on the people of the earth is how I described it, that we're trying to be put under this magic spell, and most of the population has accepted the spell. But I saw it as more like a blocking mechanism, or a veil, or a particular way of not seeing things clearly, which may be part of it. But then in the video near the end, he added his viewpoint or his metaphor, of which the magic spell is actually drop the vibrational rate of this realm. And I mean that by the rate, the human realm. The human realm has dropped. And with it, people who have been tied very closely to the vibrational realm of where this place used to be, all just drop with it. So there's a new realm, and you might say 4 billion automatically just went down with it. It's a spectacular metaphor of explanation of what's actually gone on, because as soon as I go into now any kind of human world, I live near a very small village, so when I go in the village I don't notice it so much, but if I go into the city next to me, it's like I'm in soup. I'm in thick soup, and I'm just like sucked dry in minutes. But if I go into nature just about anywhere, I don't notice that. In fact, nature seems unbelievably more healing. And it would make sense that nature hasn't changed. The human realm has changed. It's dropped. That was the beginning of Matt's metaphor. And it linked to something a lot of people have been saying. But because of the situation that's going on, because of what's happening, a lot of people are waking up now. And I'm going to disagree with that, because first of all, I don't like the term. I don't like the term awakening. It's used in so many different ways and so many variables. In fact, the reason I wrote Falling for Truth up on my bookshelf was to try to explain in 300 words what awakening is and what awakening isn't. But I realized from Matt's metaphor, what's happening for the people that didn't drop is a massive shift in not shift in perception, greater sight of perception. And I'm going to try to explain the metaphor to you. So, as he claims, as reality just drops, and this is very similar to what happened after 9/11. Very similar. I'll share my experience after 9/11 because it ties in and explains the exact same thing that we're going on now, just on a little smaller scale. So, when reality drops and the average person drops with it, let's say before there was a bird in the tree. And the bird in the tree has a little bit more of a vantage point over anybody on ground level. They're seeing a bit more. They're not that far away from where reality is, but they see a bit more. Now, all of a sudden, The bird in the tree stays where it is. It doesn't move. And the reality goes further down, drops. What's happened is the bird hasn't changed. The bird in the tree has had no change whatsoever in anything they've done. The rest of reality has dropped on them. But now from where they are, their ability to see has gone up by 100 times. They're not just seeing the area around them, they're seeing the whole county of where they live. They have this massive vantage point, and all of a sudden they're like, what the hell is this? They're seeing more and more and more, almost instantaneously, instantaneous realization, because of, it's like they've just been lifted, but that's not the right metaphor. It dropped. It dropped. They didn't rise, it dropped. It's the same result, but it just happened without their expectation. It surprised the hell out of them. And I think you're going to see that in a lot. You're seeing that in a lot of people who you knew were not. They were a little different than the average population. They were maybe reading a few different subjects or topics, but they weren't really that far apart. Right now, all of a sudden, you're seeing they're probably quite confused, and they're getting all of these new realizations and insights, and like, holy crap, and they don't know what to do with it. And so that's one thing to realize. We're talking about preparation as I come up with in a few areas. But this is what area we're going to have to start understanding. And that's what this metaphor is so good about, is realizing that people are going to be really different now. Now imagine the bird in the sky. Think of the bird who's in the sky. Someone who's had great knowledge of all of these subjects for quite a long time. And now all of a sudden, again, they haven't moved. Earth has just dropped another, the Earth realm just dives down, and now they've got a massive seeing. So the insights that are coming to that type of person, the realizations that are coming to them, are going to be enough to knock them over. And I think that's what you're seeing right now. Anyone who hasn't dropped with the vibrational rate change has this new bird perception. They've gone from bird in the tree to bird in the sky. Bird in the sky has gone to bird above the clouds. A bird above the clouds has gone to bird that can see the whole earth, that kind of thing. I think that metaphor explains so much, and it explains the level of what we're up against. It's not just that people have had like a spell put on them. They're actually, the average person is in a different reality now. Reality is actually changed. The vibrational rate has changed. And this takes me into like 9/11, which now because of Matt's explanation, I now understand a bit more of the 9/11 experience and my personal experience that happened at that time. When 9/11 took place 20 years ago, I'd been studying mostly with a Korean Zen monk for about a year and a half, and had been working hard with alchemy and ancient Egypt and a few other subjects. And about a year before 9/11, I just started reading David Icke, Bill Cooper, sort of the conspiracy theorists of the day, partially out of curiosity. I wasn't really taking it too seriously. It was, I've been looking into these subjects for a long, long time. But at that time, it was kind of like interesting possibility. I didn't discount it, but I didn't accept much of it either. It was just interesting theory. Okay, now I know what some people I know from friends of mine I know are kind of talking about. Okay. But when 9/11 happened, I was with Mr. Park. I'd been doing some healing. He'd been doing some healing on me for about 3 weeks prior. So I was also in a very clear state because of the healing. And when I got up in the morning, we were in Hawaii, actually, is where he was staying then. So the event had happened many hours before, of course. By the time I got up, I was just seeing reruns of it. And when I looked at the screen and I kind of asked, what the hell is this, And someone explained to me what happened. It was just like this, boom. It was like, damn it. So all of the stuff in those Bill Cooper, David Icke books, that's foundationally true. Wow. Wow. And it was in an instant. It was like instant knowing. It was like seeing the event. And this is exactly the best description now I have of it. I didn't necessarily change, or maybe, Mr. Park helped me raise a tiny level in the healing, but I didn't change in that event. reality dropped. And when reality dropped, I had a different vantage point of things that I couldn't see clearly before, all of a sudden became instantly clear. So if you're in any of these states, I would assume most of the people who would be watching a channel like mine have not been at ground level for a long time. You're somewhere above ground level. And now you're even higher above ground level, which might mean, which on one level is going to be great because more realizations are going to flood to you quickly, but it also means a lot of realizations are going to flood to you really quickly. And that could lead to, it could just lead to confusion. It could lead to, I remember for a little bit after the 9/11 thing, my body was like, it was hard to sometimes control like a fire almost in my body. And that was, the internal system dealing with all of this new stuff that it just overwhelmed it. Like, holy crap, I've been living under all these lies for this many years and not known it. How could I do that? Boom, it was a boom, That's happening to a lot of people, and they're not saying it because they don't really understand that's what's happened. Of course, they're confused. Their friends, their relatives, their neighbors are where they are, and they don't know what to do with anything. So if you keep that in mind, that's what's happening to you, and that's what's happening to the people around you, I think that's going to really help all of us get a better gauge on how to interact with where we are right now. Because that's when now I bring it to the topic of preparation. And I don't mean preparation to use this time to prepare for like storing water and getting extra food and, knowing how to make a fire. I mean, those are all great preparation pieces, and you should have been doing them for years. The preparation, I mean, is the recognition that these two metaphors that Matt and I have just shared now with you are highly likely correct. And that means on one level, for example, already starting to prepare, how are you going to talk to people in the world? Because before, let's say you were the bird in the tree and this was reality. You didn't have that far to discuss things with them. Now all of a sudden that the gap is like this, your ability to converse on any kind of deep personal level with them is going to be so great. And if you were a bird in the sky before, the gap is going to be so great, it's going to be almost impossible. Like beyond asking for the time or what the weather's going to be like tomorrow, what are you going to have to talk about? Your vibrational rates will be so great, conversation will be nearly impossible. It's also going to mean that so many people that you've been connected to up to this point, then you're not going to be able to be connected to. Other people who you never thought you would be connected to or didn't even know you would be connected to, now you are. Because now you're the ones that are near the same energy frequency, you might say, and will be able to converse with each other. It's a perfect example of mine. I have still like 150 Facebook friends, maybe from when I was in high school friends, right? We talk very much. They'd send like a birthday greeting or something, But there was one guy was a Facebook friend up to this point, and he was somebody I knew who he was in high school. I mean, if I saw him on the street, I would still remember what he looked like. I would know who he is, but we didn't do anything together. We didn't really hang out. We didn't have long conversations. But once I started posting my videos, he was one of the first ones to subscribe. He was one of the first ones to start making comments. And now I realize that the majority of these people I used to know in high school, there's almost no possibility of conversation with them. But this guy is now the exact person who has become vibrationally connectable with. Does that make sense to everybody? That's what I'm saying. That's why I really feel this is important, because I think you need to start preparing that on some level. You're going to have to start, as this goes on, as things get tougher and tougher, as the changes become more and more ingrained in the human structure of society. And again, I'm finding when I go into nature, I don't notice it the same way. Nature still feels the same. It's the human society, the human civilized world that has shifted. That when you're in contact in that realm with people in that realm, you need to be prepared with how that's going to go. You need to start preparing now to, how are you going to converse with people? Can you converse with people? Who are the people that used to be in your world up to this point? Can they still stay in your world? Can you still sit and converse with them? Do you maybe need to make changes? I can't tell you what to do here, but I think this is a really important thing to start preparing now, because as this goes further and further, especially if we get another drop, what if we get another frequency drop in 6 months? We need to be prepared for that. I think there's also some preparations that are good to already begin thinking about now, things like your mental health. How are you going to keep what's going on in your mind healthy? As things potentially get tougher and tougher around you, as you lose more and more of your ability to be with friends and family perhaps, how are you going to how are you going to prepare now so that your mental state will be able to stay balanced and healthy during that? Not to try to, the standard new age, just think happy thoughts and be happy and everything will be wonderful. I mean, actually be aware of your thought. Actually be self-aware and knowing what's going on inside yourself and being able to produce the kind of place where you're clear and you're balanced and you can respond to whatever's going to happen. Because if challenges start to come, surprising challenges, and you're not mentally clear, it's going to be really hard to make good choices. Everyone knows that's obvious. If you've got fear and anxiety and challenge and whatever else in your mind, and a situation comes up, you're gonna react in a way that you wouldn't react when you're clear and calm and can focus yourself and know this is the thing I have to do. Because one of the things Mr. Park had told us right after 9/11, because a lot of people were frightened, they were terrified of what was going to happen next. And somebody asked him, well, what should we do? What happens if things start blowing up and the world is ending? And he just said, as long as you stay clear in your mind, clear in your heart, focused on what's important, most important in your world, Spirit will give you direction. Spirit will give you clues. As long as you stay connected to the Spirit, you will get help, or you will at least get I think he called it a direction, something, what to do in that moment. But if you're not mentally clear, you'll miss that. So how to stay mentally clear? Obviously, like any time, how to stay physically healthy and balanced. What are the things you need to preparing now? Not just for what you're doing now. What are you going to do in 6 months when things are getting a little more challenged? What are the things you're going to do to stay physically balanced? Spiritually, what are your techniques or your practices or your ways of seeing things that are going to keep your whatever connection to Spirit, let's call it, so that it's, it connects to everybody. Your connection to Spirit, what are you going to prepare so that you can stay balanced and healthy if things change that way? I think those are really important things to just begin sitting with and begin preparing ourselves for. Because we know it's going to get tough. And if you're living in the United States, as it gets closer and through the U.S. election, it might become a gong show for a while. The good news is we just seen the metaphor again is so brilliant, because when the reality went chung, and the majority of the population just automatically just fell with it because they're linked to that frequency. If by chance the frequency ever rebounds, they're just going to rebound with it. Which means that's what it would take to make a shift. And literally, if reality ever shifted above where it was before, the majority would just go boom. They'd all be birds in the trees. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but it does recognize that that's all it would take. And maybe that's what's going on right now with the Schumann resonance. I don't know if any of you have been following it recently, but it's a low frequency emission that the Earth makes, is the best way I think I can describe it short term. And normally it has a standard steady frequency. 7.83 hertz, I think, is the normal frequency. And in the last month or two, it's been just blasting off the charts. They've been having these just spikes. I've been watching this center in Siberia that tracks it, and they post every hour what the resonance is, and it's just been spiking. And maybe it's the Earth trying to respond to it. The Earth has recognized, like, there's been, in the human world, it's just done this, and the Schumann resonance is trying to somehow do something to boost it back up. But it's telling us that the magic spell that we're under is way more advanced than I ever thought it was, and is encompassing way more levels than I thought it was originally. So I hope these topics, this thing that Matt shared and my small little ice cream on top of the dessert, maybe can all help us go to one more level, because for sure, those of us who are in the trees or in the sky, we really have to help each other here. And we really have to try to, when we've got an insight, when we've got something we think is useful, we need to share it with each other and try to build, peace comes from here, peace comes from here, somebody else shares this one, somebody shares that, and we can kind of get a better picture of where we are, what's going on, and how to be prepared for the possibilities that are coming next. So, thanks everyone for listening to the video, for being a part of the channel, for sharing your thoughts. Like I say, sharing thoughts is really important now. So if you think you've got a comment that you think could be of value, by all means, send it out. This is part of the video. It's like, go ahead, please do. And thanks to the people who have donated some money on PayPal, to the people who've bought the books from whatever bookstore you've chosen to buy them from. I hope you find them interesting, and by all means, you're welcome to comment on any of the things that are in the books or in the comments. If you have a topic that you'd like to hear about, what I'm going to try to do is every Sunday from now on, that'll be for a while, Southern France, Rennes-le-Château Day. So number 2 will come out Sunday, and then the next Sunday. So I have a full week to finish up any extra research that needs to be done, and I don't feel rushed on it, so I can have a really good presentation. So Sunday is Rennes-le-Château Day, and then I'll try to have a couple of videos during the week. And if you have something you think would be something you'd like to see me dig into, by all means, let me know that too. See you on Sunday.